I'm gonna review DAO Security. My name is, okay, that's what I have missing. Okay, I'm Mar. I'm a lead integration engineer for Harvard. I'm also a cybersecurity researcher. I'm finishing my PhD in blockchain cybersecurity. If you look me up, you probably see like a couple articles about the steganography and blockchain, and then I really like cryptography also. The agenda for this talk is to explain a little bit what attack vector we consider on DAOs, real-world incident, and categorize them within those attack vectors, defending and security DAOs, and Seraph introduction, and I'm going to explain what Seraph is afterward. So we have categorized attack vector in 3 different ones. We consider the smart contract related one, which are the basic one. The first thing is contract bugs, which is also a Web 2 issue. And the second one is very, very important in those are the governance process. So there are like the 2 main vectors related to code that can be exploited. Then we have the environmental attacks. As you can, and you know, DeFi protocols are not isolated, so they interact with each other. And an attack in one protocol can actually lead to a vulnerability in another one. And then we have the traditional attacks. Usually to interact with the blockchain, we use like web application, then the humans has the keys, so there are possibility of key set, phishing attacks, social engineering, and I think that's something we can left behind. So for the first sample, I think we are going to start like with the big one, the DAO, right? So the DAO hack, it causes a loss of $70 million, and it was a rent transfer attack. There was a bug in their code that allowed for an attacker contract to call a function recursively, and we are going to see what the function is afterward. And it actually caused a fork on the Ethereum network to Ethereum Classic. So it was like the big one. Here we can see a little sample. So the attacker actually want this line to pass, so the throw won't be activated. And we can see that here is the state updates for that one. And in the withdraw reward for, it's called payout that do an external call to the attacker contract. So that was the main vulnerability. Then we have another sample. For example, we have Olympus DAO, which has a loss of 2,092K, which was later returned, and has a vulnerability which was based on a lack on input verification. They didn't verify this address. So here, it was burning in this address, but here it was in the actually the DAO token. So they can transfer token without burning. And compound, this one was like a really big one. It was with a loss of 162 million, which 52 million of them was returned. And it was addressed like as the biggest DeFi secret at the time. In order to fix a bug, they create a RIP function that allows anyone to actually call and fill the controller contract. So this contract will actually send like comp token to random address, and people, some of them return the comp token, some of them don't. Next one, we are going to talk a governance attack, and I think this is like the biggest one, the beanstalk one. They have a loss of 181 million. After returning the fees and so on, the attacker kept like 76 million, which is still a lot of money. And it was an attack via flash loan attack. What they do is they took like some tokens, do the attack, and they return it. And usually take advantage of the governance voting process. Basically, the attacker, what he does was he submitted a proposal and then took advantage of a function that's called emergency commit, and they create 2 opcode. So the attack went as follows. First, he sent the malicious proposal a day before because there is a wait period for the proposal to be accepted. Then they use create2 to create a contract bytecode on the contract address proposed on the proposal. Then he used the flash loan to get bean tokens, use that bean token to vote and surpass like beans that have a quorum voting mechanism. So it surpassed the supermajority voting process. And then he drained all the protocol and returned like the loan and used Tornado Cash to cash like the profit. The next example is actually Build Finance DAO. This is an attack, but it was governance hostile takeover because the attacker has the tokens to take over the governance and the treasury and all the keys. So it puts like in perspective the governance mechanism you are using, right? And then you have Jam Finance that it was actually stopped. If not, it would have been like 3.1 million lost. And what the attacker do was the same. He proposed an hostile governance proposal, and then he tried to pass it as a legit, like sending funds to staking and liquidity providers. And actually, the Jam Finance teams canceled the proposal, was able to cancel it, and then the attack didn't occur. Next one, we are gonna talk about MakerDAO. That was an environmental attack. So they lost 8 million. And the thing was, there was an attack on the mempool. And they actually used that attack of denial serving on the mempool to attack the liquidation mechanism process, which was audited and worked fine. So they didn't actually prevent this. Like, they didn't see it coming. So what happened was, I think everyone that has been like in this environment for a while remember Black Thursday, like in 2 years ago. So it was a Black Swan event. Nobody see it coming. And then what they do is they started sending transactions with low gas prices to the mempool to kind of deny any transaction to be mined. Then the oracles weren't able to actually update the prices on the Ether, and the Ether was falling. And due to this, a maker, when a position gets under collateralized, then they can trigger the liquidation process, and the users couldn't actually add more collateral because they couldn't mine the transaction. And then another thing that actually take like it was also part of the denial service. So MakerDAO has the keepers that actually helps on the bidding process. With a liquidation is triggered, there is an auction, and the keepers are there to kind of try and make the auction fair, right? So the keepers couldn't also mine their transaction. So they were nothing they can do. And the attacker then, what they do is just sending like 0 bits, which are like really low in day, because you bid with day and then you get the Ether of the collateral, and they were able to get all the Ether almost for nothing. So another kind of environmental attack that we see is price manipulation in the oracles. It's not only with DAO, it happens with other kind of blockchain protocols. So this was the case of Deus DAO. What the attacker do was basically manipulate the price of the DAI token. When they manipulate the price, the value got like inflated. So they use those token borrowed to borrow more token and then cash the profit, selling them for that higher value. And they lost like 13 million, which is a huge amount. This is capture or like the oracle. And then our final example is an example of a traditional attack. It was Badger DAO. They lost like 120 million. And it was actually an attack of Web2. What happens is that the API key got compromised for Cloudflare. They say maybe it was because of phishing attack. So the attacker was able to inject a malicious script on the front end, and he was waiting for a while, and he changed the address of the Badger DAO to their own address. And then he tricked users to actually allow them to spend their tokens. And then they use like a really smart mechanism is you have two ways of allowing tokens. You can use the allow function, the approve function, and then you can use the increase allowance. The thing is, this is the difference on MetaMask of how each function is shown. So it does the same, the only difference is increase allowance actually take the previous allowance and add the new one. But you can see here that actually approve is like, do you want to give permission to access your mock? It's like very clear that they are trying to access your mock. But in the increase allowance, there is nothing like that. So people actually didn't know that they were approving any other person or contract to get their tokens, right? So once we have seen that, what we can do to prevent attack? The first thing I will do is when you are programming and developing an application, a blockchain application, there are some security best practices, like for example, check for underflow, overflow, external call, and that kind of thing that you can actually implement yourself. Then regarding the governance, which is a tricky part in the DAOs, there are some mechanisms you can use. So the first one is decreasing the value of taking control of the governance. So if you decrease the permission of the governance in the whole protocol, if someone actually gets control of that, then it won't be able, for example, to withdraw all the funds or change all the contract. But it's tricky because DAOs usually want to have everything goes through the governance, so it's a tricky part. Then the other thing you can do is just increment like the difficulty to get the token or change the voting mechanism. Most DAO usually use like the quorum-based voting mechanism that is just, okay, you have the majority, and then if you surpass the majority, or 2/3 in the case, for example, for being itself, then the proposal is accepted. So you can use another method, like for example, weighted-based voting that actually takes into account how much time have you to hold that token. So flash-long attacks becomes really difficult. Reputation-based voting mechanism is similar, but they use like the reputation of the user on the system that actually triggers some kind of attacks like selling user and so on. And then I think this one is Vitalik's favorite, is the quadratic voting, that what it does is just increasing the cost of voting for the same proposal a number of times. So right now, if you want to vote one time is 1 token, 2 times is 2 tokens. But with a quadratic one, if you want to vote one time is one token, 2 times is 2 a square, and so on. And then increasing the cost of executing attack, like for example, using KYC measures that I understand that most DAOs doesn't want. Time locks, that it has a good part, it has also the bad part, because for example, where Compound got hacked, the proposal for the to fix the bug took like, I don't know if it was a day or something, so they were actually vulnerable for another day. And then veto power for the organization. And then it's important to not forget like non-web specific security measure, like prevent user or educate user about phishing and do like Web 2 audit, right? And this is like the main thing we think you should do. We are an auditing company, so it's like what we recommend. But I have attached like a little bit of data. So in 2021, out of the 40 protocols that were hacked, only 15 were audited, and their losses were like 60% less than those that weren't audited. And then everything is before the contract is deployed. What happens if your contract is already deployed on chain? What can you do to prevent this kind of attacks? So we have, in one side, the monitoring solutions that usually triggers when an event happens or any kind of transaction, or you can actually put like different filters. They allow the user to react in a quick way, like for example, pausing the contract. But the problem is that they act after the transaction has been made. So it's not a preventive solution, it's a reactive solution. And then we have setup, which I'm showing here. It's actually the only preventive solution on the market, and is capable to stop attacks before they happen. So with setup, the analyst is able to see all the gold trace of the transaction. So if there is a flash loan attack, you will see like how the attacker take the flash loan, how they surpass the voting mechanism, and how they try to take control over the governance. And here is a little overview of how it's worked. But basically, the smart contract will interact with the setup contract via 5 lines of code. They are a modifier, and there are a team of analysts and notaries that will approve or reject the transaction. So we are able actually to stop much of the attack. Maybe, for example, Badger DAO is a difficult one because it's not a Web3 related issue, but thinking key leakage and transfer ownership. So we will see like this call to transfer ownership is shady, and we reject the transaction. And I think that's all on my part. If you have any questions, I don't know if I've been like, okay. I was a little bit stressed about that. So I know I've been like really quick with some slides. So if you guys have any other questions or comments or anything like that. No? So yeah, that's a tricky question. So we offer, we are actually developing a new version of setup, which is going to be more decentralized, so the price is going to change. And then we offer incentives for SaaS customer. So it's not something that is like set on a stone. If you want to find out the price for setup for your protocol, you will probably need to contact us, and our sales representative person, which is Charles, will talk to you and offer you the price for your protocol. Well, I can.
Yeah. So my question is, like you said before, with Seraph, we can stop the transaction. Who is we?
Right now, we have a
Can you please repeat his question for the recording?
Yeah, sure. I said that with setup, we can stop the transaction, and he asked, who is we? Right now, we are Halbon analysts and experts that are auditors and are able to actually evaluate the risk of the transaction to be executed. As I said, we are working on a more decentralized way in which Halbon won't be like the one analyzing it, but I can give like a lot of detail right now.
Okay, thanks.
Do we have more questions? Here.
Hello. No. So you mentioned something about. No worries. You mentioned something about token-weighted voting, where you can, I don't know, like place a score based on how long a token is held for. So flash loans don't work. This is actually the first time I'm hearing about it. Could you maybe
Sure.
explain in a little bit longer how that mechanism works?
Yeah, so the way it works is you can have like a control on how long the person has held a token. So this way, flash loan attacks that actually change the proprietary of the token at the moment and then returns it, then this period will be like zero or close to zero. So it shouldn't have like a lot of weight on the voting process. So the longer you have that token in your power, the more power it has over the governance proposal and the acceptance of the proposal. So that's one of the mechanisms. There are a lot of them. If you look for governance proposal mechanism, there are a lot of papers and studies, and because it's a tricky issue. Sometimes you have to wait, like, do I really want to give that much power to someone that can later sell that token to anyone? So you have to really wait that kind of issue. That's another thing that Seraph can help, because even if you actually have the quorum-based voting mechanism, which is the supermajority one, and one token, it's one vote, if there is an attack, you protect the execute function, and we are able to stop it regarding the mechanism you use. But it's something to take in consideration even if you don't use Seraph.
Thank you. I think that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much again, Mar.
Thank you.
Thank you.